Hello, Dr. Eiler, and uh, classmates. This is my persuasive speech. I'm going to give you the preamble. I'm Alex Proct. I'm a Staff Sergeant, United States Army retired. I would give this speech at Washington University in a lecture hall that is capable of doing live stream via Zoom. That way it can have a live audience as well, a larger audience. I would like to do this on a weekday, preferably in the evening, early evening, like 7 p.m. ish. The subject of this is which nation leads the West? And the audience, so this presentation would be directed toward potential voters, politicians within the U.S. Congress, our president, and the world leaders. So with that, I will start my speech. Dr. Eiler, distinguished guests, fellow classmates, my name is Alex Proct. I want to take a few moments and discuss two critical topics that are not just abstract ideas, but arguably directly impact our daily lives. Afterward, I want to discuss why these topics are important when considering which nation leads the West. And finally, who do we believe possesses this title of leader of the West? First, defining the West and what qualities help determine whether a nation is considered part of, quote unquote, the West. So according to Niall Ferguson's book, Civilization, the West and the Rest, characteristics that define the West or a West nation include competition, science, the rule of law, consumerism, modern medicine, and the work ethic. In addition to these concepts, we must also include freedom and a measure of individual liberty. Using these concepts as definitions, one would exclude typical tyrannical leaderships, dictatorships, puppet states, and enemy proxies due to the lack of these concepts. Examples would be Russia, China, and Iran. So after we discover the answer to these topics, we must ask ourselves, why is this important to the world? So the eyes of the world have been fixed on two different regions in recent months, and one for over a year now. First, the unprovoked invasion of Russia into Ukraine, which has led to a bloody, horrific war pitting good versus evil. The other was the brutal attack on innocent Israelis by terrorist group Hamas on October 7, 2023. Undoubtedly, Israel's version of our 9/11. These recent acts of barbarism have led to, obviously, the Israel-Hamas war that continues to rage despite efforts from many countries calling for peace. Finding common ground at the end to end the war in Gaza weighs heavy on members of many countries across the world. In the past month, there's been division and dissent here in the United States, pitting one against another yet again. We see this all the time on the news every day with the protests at many college campuses across the nation. So it begs the question, why is it so important here at home when war rages thousands of miles away? Well, I think the answer lies with the central issue, which nation leads the West? So in the op-ed article that I'm referencing here, author Hugh Hewitt argues that the United States has fallen from grace as a traditional leader of the West because of the division within our country, where anti-Semitism has taken over the college campuses through protest and because of our leadership, both military and presidentially, and has wavered to the point of indecision. History tells us that the United States actually took leadership, the leadership role, around the world upon our entrance to World War II and has continued this strong leadership until very recently. President Biden's indecision and, quite frankly, feeble-mindedness has caused the world to look down upon us, starting with the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan in 2021, and now questioning our support of Israel at a critical time in history. And just today, it's been announced that we are going to withhold critical weapons from Israel that could be the difference between winning and losing that war. So Mr. Hewitt considers Israel the new leader of the West because they are one of the only countries in the world right now that has a clear objective and a clear path to get through this war. They remain committed to their freedom at all costs and is unwavering in its leadership. This is a position of agreement between myself and the author, and I agree that the United States is in an awkward position where it could be argued that we have actually lost our sense of purpose. An example of this is within the U.S., losing sight of the big picture. Just look at our current House of Representatives. There's bickering between the Republican Party over whether the House Speaker should be removed, while two wars rage across, in the world and require our undivided attention. So how can we be the leader of the West when we can't even settle on a leader in the House? With the election fast approaching and our country more divided than ever, coupled with a current administration that's faltering on many, many significant foreign and domestic issues, the United States is arguably casting a shadow of doubt in being the leader of the West. Our current state will be looked upon as a dark time within our history by future scholars and historians because our country has become something that the founding fathers would never recognize if they were here today to see it. I honestly believe and would argue that they would be highly disappointed with what has happened to our politics, foreign policy, and national security. When responding to the delegates as to what has been created during 1787 Constitutional Convention, Ben Franklin was famously quoted saying, "A republic if you can keep it." I bring history into it because we are in a critical part of world history and national history. So if we continue on this current path that we're on, we're actually flirting with a slippery slope where we may be unable to keep our republic. Israel, in contrast, is steadfast in their conviction and willing to fight at all costs, including the loss of life, to keep their free republic, making them, as I argue, at least for now, the new leader of the West. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.